Welcome to another structural analysis lesson from Eno Tutorial. Now in this lesson we are going to discuss analysis of plane trusses. In the previous lessons we discussed analysis of beam, analysis of frame. Now if you've not watched those videos, try to watch those videos before you watch this video. So in this lesson we are now going to discuss analysis of plane trusses. Now we are going to use two methods to analyze a truss. One of the methods we are going to use is method of joint, and the other method is method of section. So these are the two methods we are going to use to analyze trusses. Now, the way we analyze trusses is a little different. So when we are looking at the internal force distribution of trusses, we are only considering axial load. That is, there is no shear, no bending, no moment inside the member of a truss. So you need to know this. In a truss, we don't have shear, we don't have bending, we don't have moment. We only have axial forces. So trusses are assemblage of straight members connected at their end by flexible connections. Now, as you can see, if you take a look at the screen, we have different truss system, as you can see. So, in other words, all connections are assumed frictionless and are allowed to rotate. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using a truss system? So, one of the advantages of using a truss system is trusses are usually lightweight. Yeah, trusses, they are usually lightweight. So, sometimes we prefer to use trusses because they are lightweight. And another advantage is trusses are extremely stiff. Yes, trusses are really stiff because we know that stiffness is basically a structural resistance to deflection. So if a structure is very stiff, it doesn't want to deflect too much, right? So if a structure is very stiff, the deflection is going to reduce. And because trusses are extremely stiff, we tend to use trusses. So these are the advantages of using trusses. Now, what about the disadvantages? Now, one of the disadvantages is a truss can be expensive to build or fabricate. Yeah, a truss can really be expensive to build or fabricate, because think about it, in a truss system so many members are framed to make up the truss system. As you can see, if you take a look at this picture, as you can see, we have so many members framed to make this truss system, and most of these members are usually made up of steel, and we know that steel is very expensive compared to concrete. So these tend to be a little bit expensive. So this is one of the disadvantages of using a truss system. Now we have examples of common bridge truss configuration. If you take a look at the screen, the first one we have is OA bridge. The second one we have is Pratt bridge. The third is Warren bridge. The fourth is Parker bridge. The fifth is K-truss bridge. Now we also have some examples of common roof truss configurations. The first one is OA truss configuration. The second is Pratt truss configuration. The third is Wick roof truss configuration. Now, you don't need to memorize these truss configurations. You just need to be aware of it, because when you get to the field, you are going to see more of this. So you just need to be aware of this. So there's no need to memorize this. Okay, now as you can see, we have example of common roof truss configuration. As you can see, we have OA roof truss configuration, we have Pratt roof truss configuration, we have Fick truss configuration. As you can see, this shape, it has a slope shape, as you can see. So this is how you can know that this is a roof truss configuration. As you can see, these are the slopes, as you can see. So these are examples of common roof truss configurations. So let's move downward. Now let's talk about some assumptions behind some truss behavior. This will make our life a lot easier when we do the analysis. So one of the assumptions is all members are connected by frictionless pin. Okay, so all members are connected by frictionless pin. So we assume that all the members are connected by frictionless pins. So meaning the pins, they have no friction. Okay, then the second assumption is the load or reaction are applied only at the joint. Yeah, they apply only at the joint because we said there is no bending, no moment, and no shear. There is only axial forces. Okay. Then the last is the centroidal axis of the member framing into a given joint all meet at the joint. So what do I mean by this? As you can see, if you take a look at this picture, as you can see, we are having all the forces acting at this joint. As you can see, all the forces, they are passing through this particular joint. So this is where we are going to introduce the concept of centroid. Centroid is that point on a given shape where you can concentrate all the resultant forces. For example, if you have a rectangular load, the centroid is on the middle. And if you have a triangular load, the centroid is 1/3 of the way over. Okay, so this is what we know as centroid. So centroid is just the point on a given shape where all the concentrated load meets. Now, why is this important? Why do we need to apply all the force on the centroid? Because it is important, because if you are fabricating a steel truss, for example, you will design and detail that truss so that all the centroid all meet at a common point. That is, if the load goes through the centroid, meaning there is no bending. Like, take for example, if you have a bag on your right hand, this bag, we want to try to pull you down to the right, because the bag is not located at the centroid. But if you have the handbag right at the middle of your bag, meaning this bag is located at the centroid, so the centroid is right in the middle of your bag. So this will tend to be more stable than if you have the bag on your right arm. So this is what we know as centroid. So all the resultant forces need to pass through a common point and they need to be at the middle. Okay, so this is what we know as centroid. So if the load goes through the centroid, meaning there is no bending, there is no moment. Okay, so because of this assumption, we can treat truss members as carrying only axial forces only. Like I said, there is no shear or bending moment. So for trusses, we also assume that all forces in tension are positive. Okay, so all the forces in tension, we assume this to be positive. Now note, RISA 2D assume compression is positive. Now, RISA 2D is a software we use to analyze structures. It's a software we use to analyze beam, column, truss. So in RISA 2D, all the compression forces, RISA 2D take this to be positive. Okay, so this is what we are trying to say. Okay, in addition to external stability or determinacy, the question of whether a truss is stable or determinate internally must be addressed. Okay, so we need to address this. Now, consider the truss shown. As you can see, consider this truss shown. The truss must have enough support reactions to maintain equilibrium of the structure as a whole. Okay, so in order for this truss to maintain equilibrium, the truss needs to have at least enough support reactions. So the support reactions, this is what is going to make this structure to be at equilibrium. And however, as shown, the truss will collapse under the lateral load. Now, if you take a look at this truss, if we apply a lateral load on this truss is going to freely deform. Okay, so the truss is going to sway freely. Now, why is this so? The reason this truss is going to sway, or the reason this truss is going to deform freely, is because the truss is internally unstable. Now, if you look at it, this truss is internally unstable. And how can we make this internally stable? This is where this statement comes into play. As you can see, a dead giveaway is that the truss doesn't have any triangle or triangular arrangement of members. So, because this truss does not have any triangular arrangement, that is, if you take a look at this look just like a rectangle. So if we just apply a load on it, it will deform freely. But if we have a triangular arrangement of members, this is going to increase the stiffness, and it is going to make this truss to be internally stable. So in order for us to make this internally stable, we just need to introduce some triangles inside the truss. Okay, so we need to introduce some triangle inside this truss. So this is going to make the truss to be internally stable. Now we're going to talk about internal indeterminacy of trusses. So the internal indeterminacy of trusses is expressed as follows. So I sub t, this is equal to degree of indeterminacy, and this is internal indeterminacy. So I sub t is equal to m plus r minus 2j. So what is m? M is the total number of members. What about r? R is the total number of unknown support reaction. While j, this is the total number of joints in the truss. So if I sub t is lesser than 0, then the truss is internally unstable. You need to know this. If I sub t is equal to 0, the truss should be internally statically determinate. And if I sub t is greater than 0, the truss should be internally statically indeterminate. Now, what do I mean by should be? That one you're going to see that in a moment. So the quantity m plus r is the total number of unknown, while the quantity 2j is the total number of known. That is 2 equations of each joint. Now you need to know that if all your forces all meet at the common point, meaning there is no moment, right? Because of that, when you do an analysis of a truss using joint method, because now we are basically taking a look at the joint method. So if you do an analysis of a truss using joint method, you don't have 3 equations of equilibrium, you only have 2 equations of equilibrium, because there is no bending, right? So because there is no bending, meaning we're only going to take a look at some of all the forces in the x direction and some of all the forces in the y direction. So this is what we mean by 2 equations of each for each joint. So we're only going to have 2 equations for each joint when we are doing analysis of a truss. Okay, so let's move down. So a non-negative value of I sub t doesn't guarantee that a truss is stable. So you need to know this. Now, for a truss to be stable, the following condition must be met. Now, the truss must be externally stable, right? The truss must be externally stable. That is, I sub e must be non-negative. All the support reactions must not be concurrent. What do I mean by must not be concurrent? That is they must not pass through a single point. Okay, and all the support reactions must not be parallel. So all the support reactions must not be parallel, and all the support reactions must not be concurrent. Okay, so this is what we mean by for a truss to be stable, they must meet these conditions. While I sub t must be non-negative as previously stated, the truss must be constrained against all possible rigid body movement. That is, this can be true to determine sometimes, but will become evident during analysis. That is, the result will be inconsistent or infinite. Okay, and again, a dead giveaway is the lack of triangles. So if you have a truss that is internally unstable, so if you introduce some triangles in the truss, this is going to make the truss stable, internally stable. Okay, so let's talk about the method of joints. So this is one of the methods we are going to use to analyze trusses. So in the method of joints, we solve for the forces in the members by investigating each joint. Okay, so we are going to investigate each joint. In other words, if a truss is in equilibrium, then each of its joints must be in equilibrium. Okay, because each of the forces in a joint pass through a common point. This is a concurrent force system. As you can see on the screen, each of these forces, they pass through a common point, and this is the common point, as you can see. So in other words, there is no moment at a joint because we don't have distance, because we said moment is force times distance. In order for us to have distance, or sorry, not distance, in order for us to have moment, or in order for moment to be produced, we need force with a distance. If we don't have any distance, then how do you expect us to produce moment? It is not possible. So we need a distance. So because we don't have any distance here, meaning this joint will produce no moment. Okay, so we're going to have forces in the x direction and forces in the y direction. So let's take a look at the procedures. Let's see how we can go about this joint method. So the first step you want to follow is you want to determine the support reactions. So let's move to the next step. So the next step is we are going to choose a joint where there are two unknown forces. So you need to have two unknown forces at most. So this is the maximum. So you need to have at most two unknown forces. So if you take a look at this, we're having three unknown forces. So meaning we won't be able to calculate for this because we're having more than two unknown forces. But if you take a look at this, we're having two unknown forces. So we can start from this joint. Okay. So this is because there are only two equations of equilibrium that we can use at a joint. Yeah, at a joint we only have two equations of equilibrium. So we need to have at most two unknown forces. So the next step, which is step 3, we need to write the equation of equilibrium for each joint. Okay, so for each joint, you need to write the equations of equilibrium. So the summation of all the forces in the x direction need to be equal to 0, and summation of all the forces in the y direction need to be equal to 0. As you can see, the forces acting to the right is going to be positive, while the forces acting upward is going to be positive as well. Okay, so the next step is you just need to solve for the unknown forces in each member. Then the last step, you just need to repeat for each joint until the truss is completely solved. So this is how we can use method of joint to analyze a truss. Now in the next lesson, we are going to take a look at an example. So we are going to take a look at a truss. So we are going to analyze the truss and we're going to find all the forces, that is all the unknown forces in the truss. So this is where we are going to call it. Now, if you've been watching my videos and you've not subscribed to this channel, I don't know when you're going to subscribe. I don't know what you want me to do before you can subscribe. I don't know, but I've tried my best. I try to make sure I explain every step in detail. So if you have not subscribed, consider subscribing to this channel. All you need to do is you just need to click that red button under this video. It's very, very easy. Click the red button under this video, and after doing that, make sure you click that bell icon so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get notification. And don't forget to share this video with your friends. So I'll see you all in the next lesson. In the next lesson, we are going to analyze a truss. So see you. Have a good one.